I am very competitive. I always want to win. The success of my group is based on a combination of creativity and organization. Today, Louis Vuitton is by far the largest and #1 luxury brand in the world. Every competitor is trying to imitate. I think they are not successful, but they try. In 30 years from now, LVMH will still be at head of the luxury sector. LVMH is today just at the beginning, in spite of its size. Our business model is based on creativity, innovation, and quality.
There aren't very many people in the world who can do what he's done.
In life, he is exactly the opposite what people think he is.
We're dealing with one of the most successful people in the world, one of the great taste makers in the world, somebody with the great vision, somebody with a great eye.
He's always thinking about the future, not only about the iconic titles, brands that he has.
People who don't know him have a completely different idea of the people who know him.
He's one of the wealthiest people in the world, and his wealth was accomplished in a single generation.
LVMH is comprised of 70 different brands divided into 6 different sectors. It covers everything from the highest-end perfumes and wines to the best leather goods in the world.
In the 90s, I had the idea of a luxury group. And at the time, I was very much criticized for it. I remember people telling me it does not make sense to put together so many brands.
You know the brands. It's Givenchy, it's Fendi, it's even Thomas Pink, Sephora.
Sephora, he, again, was completely ahead of the game. I remember when it first opened and everyone said he was crazy and it was never going to work.
He recognized that there would be a taste for luxury goods and, frankly, an ability to pay for them.
Bernard Arnault is the architect that brought them all together under one house.
And it was a success. It is a recognized success. When I was a child, I was always trying to have fun. I was always, what we say in French, dissipé in school, even if I was not bad at school, but I like fun. When I was young, I was living by my grandmother because my grandfather died in 1959. And I saw my grandmother very sad. And so I said one day to my father and my mother, okay, I cannot leave her alone because I liked her a lot, so I'm going to live with her. And I went on the other side of the street, so it's not very far. And she was extremely helpful.
I met him back in 1979 in Lille, in the north of France. He had recently joined his father's company, and I was still studying. I was in my last year of college, and I interned with him, actually with his father and him. Both were at the company at that time.
My grandfather founded a company in the north of France. Then my father ran the company, and I was always in contact with them. I was always very interested, and I never thought of doing anything else.
He started out as a civil engineer. He worked for his family's construction company.
And my father was really exceptional because he always gave me the sense of business. And when I arrived in the business with him, after 3 years, he told me, "Say, Guy, I think you're able to run the business, so let's do it." And he gave me the key. I was 25, and I was running. It was a small business, only 1,000 people, but it was risky for him because it's a business he built over his entire life.
By his mid-20s, he was making some pretty big changes. He wanted to move out of construction and manufacturing and into real estate.
And he was getting ready to invest in America, which was very unusual for a small real estate development company in France. France was very conservative at that time. You didn't do that, especially at his age. He was still in his 20s. And it was very unusual for somebody of his age to take those types of decisions.
When we grew up, he was actually not in luxury, he was in real estate. It was really something incredible to witness, to see this incredible ascension.
He started looking for gems, for things that were undervalued, even outside of what his company had done previously.
I was looking at several ideas and I hit Christian Dior, and immediately I thought this brand has a lot of potential. It is evaluated. It is small compared to what I thought the world was going to become, and so I moved to buy it.
Dior was a jolie madame house, you know, that nice French ladies wore to lunch, and it was not in any way creating fashion, making fashion. There was no excitement around it. It was very staid and very safe.
He's an extremely creative French entrepreneur who built the largest and best luxury brand in the world.
He was a complete visionary. He saw things that nobody else saw. He saw the increase of wealth in the world.
We try to build a large business with our partners with one criteria: the best quality and the most elitist product in every line that we are selling throughout the world.
It was a risky move at the time because it was much bigger than the company of my father, but starting from that, we built the LVMH today.
Bernard Arnault is the most talked about man in the fashion world today.
Dior itself does over $1 billion a year.
He does wonders with mergers and acquisitions.
When I was 10 or 11 years old, I understood that something was going on. You know, when you start seeing your father's face on TV and in the newspapers, when you also have people of 11 or 12 years old speaking to you about your own father, saying, oh, I hear he's incredible and a genius. So that's how it happens, actually. And so quite early on, we understood that something was going on.
If there's something he wants you to be aware of, he doesn't beat around the bushes. He'll be very, very straightforward.
He invested in an unbelievable way, and the numbers came back the way he expected.
When I go working in the morning, I always think I will have fun today with this or this.
I remember him telling me one day that 90% of his time was actually, meetings that were not that interesting. He said the other 10% are absolutely fascinating. And then, you speak to Karl Lagerfeld or you'll spend an hour with Frank Gehry. These are the ones that you must enjoy, but the other ones are important and necessary too.
I am never bored. It's what I have in mind. When I think of myself young, it's fun, and I am very competitive. So it's like in tennis. I always want to win, and that's fun.
He and I share a great admiration for a tennis player called Roger Federer. And I think the happiest that I have ever seen Bernard was when his children secretly arranging for Bernard to have a match with Roger. And I swear, he showed me the video, he acted it out stroke by stroke. And then just last week, he was telling me about a more recent game that they had. And at the end of the fifth game, it was 5-0, Roger said, well, I'm gonna play now the way I would in a Grand Slam. He stepped it up And all Bernard could talk to me about was the fact that he'd actually won 1 point.
I have been lucky, I must say, to have fantastic children. They are, all of them, interested by the family business.
So when I was 17, he gave me a pair of shoes, of Berluti shoes. They were the most incredible and beautiful shoes that I had ever seen. But yes, they gave me a sense of what this business was, of the rarity and the beauty of it all, but also it gave me a sense of responsibility. Indeed, at that time, I kind of understood, okay, this is going to be the business that I'm going to be in.
I'm very, very impressed with his relationship with his children. He's just so attentive. Family is really all important to him, and he really makes the time. And I find that that is something that people miss out, and it takes a very special human being to be able to do that.
A family business, especially in the luxury area, is key for success. When you are in a family, you have two major advantages. One is you can think long-term, like Louis Vuitton, for instance. I'm not that much interested by the number of the next 6 months. What I am interested in is that the desire for the brand will be the same in 10 years as it is today. The second advantage of being a family business is to hire people. Because when people come to LVMH, they do not come in a group with some anonymity. They come in a family. You are not just a little person in a big thing. You are a member of the family and you will be taken care of as such.
Many of these luxury houses, many of these luxury companies began as family businesses. Luxury, by definition, has heritage. It has legacy. And that's what you find in the consistency of a family.
To have the empire he has, based upon talent and good management skills, but with very creative people, who themselves probably think they're the best in the world at what they do, and in many cases they're right. And somehow he's able to get those people to work collaboratively and organize them and work for him, which is saying a lot.
He never ceases to surprise me with his risk-taking and his ability to understand how important the creative force is at every house, that without that you can have the most brilliant CEOs in the world, you can have incredible marketing, you have a brilliant strategy, but without a driving force behind each brand, that you have nothing.
A lot of people see him as a great financier, great strategic mind in terms of how to build an empire. That's not at all how he thinks. In my opinion. I think his big strength is actually to speak to creative people and to make them thrive under his management. It's not to create profit or create more revenue or double the size of the business. I know that's the consequence and that's usually what happens, but his real talent is with creative minds.
You know, the success of the group is made of the quality of the product. And the quality of the product is a consequence of the extraordinary craftsmen and women that are working with us. We have a large campaign of hiring young people that sometimes are not really thinking of becoming craftsmen or craftswomen. But once we have given them the idea and once we train them, we have a rate of success which is near 90%. And it's very rewarding for us to see these young people being so proud.
He's developed that long tradition of quality and craftsmanship, but he also adapts, and he adapts to the different generations.
You could think of Arnault as a merchant, but he's also thinking of just the tectonic plates and the shifts in the world.
I always try to think of what can we bring to a brand. If we are looking at buying a brand, what can the brand be, how can it be improved? Also, does it fit with the other brands? Most of the time it is a competitor, but does it fill a niche where we could see we are not very much present? And when that happened, I must say we can move.
It takes a certain amount of courage to stand against the tide. There were a lot of naysayers. He was paying full prices for things that weren't close to what other people would want, and other people scoffed that he would ever realize value or earn anything from the prices that he was paying.
I met him when the Fendi takeover was in the air. There were other people who wanted Fendi too, but when I met him, I said to myself, this one and nobody else. And I was right. He invested in an unbelievable way, and the numbers came back the way he expected.
I am close to many of my businesses, but the one I have for the longest period of time is Christian Dior, followed by Louis Vuitton. So maybe these are the two I am the closest.
He knows what he wants for his brands. He manages to explain it quite clearly, and if the result doesn't correspond to what he wants, well, he will very politely but quite clearly throw campaigns away and have everybody rework.
Well, Bernard is a fascinating man. He's reserved, but also very direct and very clear. If there is something he wants you to be aware of, he doesn't beat around the bushes. He'll be very, very straightforward.
It's one thing to identify a moment in time and to have your taste and your vision collide with what the world would want at that moment in time. But he's been successful over a lot of moments, over a very long period of time, across the world.
I am lucky to have met Steve Jobs at the beginning of the 2000. And we were talking and joking. He told me, you know, Bernard, I don't know if in 50 years my iPhone will still be a success, but I can tell you, I'm sure everybody will still drink your Dom Pérignon. The question next usually is, who is going to succeed you?
I wouldn't be giving him his Lifetime Achievement Award yet. I would wait a while longer because I think there's still more chapters.
LVMH Prize is oriented to find the most talented young designer.
I think if you look at the success of the LVMH Fashion Prize, which was started by his daughter Delphine a number of years ago, I think he really started that as a garden, if you like, to discover new talent. That was a genius idea.
You have to apply on the internet. You have to have less than 35 years of age, and you have to have already presented 2 shows. And we were astonished at the beginning with the number of applicants. And we select 10 among these thousands of applicants, and then the 10 are in fact meeting here with their project. And these projects are submitted to some of the best experienced designers, like Karl Lagerfeld, Nicolas Ghesquière.
Certainly, Delphine and Bernard will ask me what I think, but in the end, the decision about who the winners will be are made by a team of LVMH designers, starting with Karl Lagerfeld. So I think they're certainly far more qualified than I would be to pick a winner.
This year there will be changes because some people left, other people came, because there are many musical chairs in the fashion world, except me. Huh?
And it's always very interesting to see these young designers showing their products, and defending their ideas, their creative ideas.
He's become a great benefactor and philanthropist. And of course, Foundation Louis Vuitton and the museum is just one example of it, just the most famous example at the moment.
We started to do some philanthropic work for the group in the beginning of the 90s, and I immediately thought of building something that was more a mark of what the group is doing. And then, at the end of the 90s, beginning of 2000, I met Frank.
My first encounter with this museum is he and his wife brought me to the Jardin d'Acclimatation, and when I realized where he was bringing me, it brought tears to my eyes because I felt like Proust was here.
A few months later, he sent me a sketch of his first vision. And it's not very different from what it is today. I thought it's extremely creative, and I asked for him to give me more details.
So we designed a museum that's solid walls, and then we enclosed that in another envelope of glass. And the glass was not to enclose interior, it was just like sails. And I talked about it like a sailboat, like a regatta of sails.
So we started to build, and then we had to stop, and then to restart building. And all in all, it took me 10 years.
Today I looked at it and felt very proud to be part of this place.
The foundation was a great gift on behalf of Bernard Arnault and his family to Paris.
When you think of cultural institutions in Paris, it's been a long time since a new one was built. And I think it was a shot of vitality in the city of Paris.
He sparks ideas. He says, what if, or, oh, but Franck, what could we do? Could we have a small concert hall? Or, you know, he says things just very softly, but I know when he says it, he means it, and I go for it, and then we have fun trying to make it happen. I can't say how much I love working with him.
He's a dreamer. He dreams, big dreams. And then he has the guts to go after those dreams. Sometimes I try to tell him the dream's too big, but of course he's always right. The dreams are never big enough.
He does not compromise on quality. He doesn't compromise on the quality of execution. He doesn't compromise on commitment. And I think that's really a big part of his recipe.
They imagine him in his big tower with his huge Excel sheets with numbers. It's very, very far from reality. It's not as serious as some might think up there.
You know, I try to keep calm. Maybe people around are more nervous than I am. Yes. I try to calm them also.
In terms of where we are in the life of Bernard Arnault and LVMH, he's got a lot of runway ahead of him. And he thinks young and he thinks current. I wouldn't be giving him his Lifetime Achievement Award yet. I would wait a while longer because I think there's still more chapters.
He has no interest in standing still. He has no interest in repeating himself. He has no interest in anything remaining the same. He is a man that is intrigued by what can happen, not by what has happened.
I admire him. I like to be with him. I like to be with his family, and that's all I can say.
He continues to, arrive at the office early in the morning, to leave often almost the last one in the evening, and he just enjoys it. He likes managing people, taking decisions, important ones, difficult ones sometimes.
Because the question next usually is who is going to succeed you? But the question for me is the best in terms of management capacity will be chosen in the future, not because he is a member of the family, but as I said, the group as a whole is a family. And so we will choose in the family who is the best. But I think I will be there for some years.